episode of Juicy Scoop is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Guys, summer's around the corner, and I know we're thinking family vacations. Let's take the kids somewhere. Maybe you've got a couple weddings you want to hit. All of that involves booking the perfect place. That's why I love Booking.com, Booking.yeah. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Now I have to share a game changer, which is Spot and Tango dog food. And I feel so much better about giving her fresh food and supplements and snacks that I know are going to keep her going longer, stronger, healthier, happier life. She deserves it. She's the best. She's gorgeous. I mean, come on. Spot and Tango is offering an exclusive deal for our Juicy Scoopers. For a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/juicyscoop and use code JuicyScoop to get 50% off your first order. That's spotandtango.com/juicyscoop. Code JuicyScoop to get 50% off your first order. Spotandtango.com/juicyscoop. Code JuicyScoop.
Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data, and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Whoop, whoop. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I have one of your favorites that I think this might be your fourth or fifth time on Juicy Scoop.
I think it is the fourth
it's
total.
Holly Madison. You know her from her best-selling books. We're also going to talk about her Juicy Show, third season of the Playboy Murders. You and Bridget, formerly both of Girls Next Door, have a great podcast that people love where you re-watch the shows. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
You
I always
look
have so much
beautiful,
fun here. Thank you. So
as
do you.
always. Couple things new in your life besides the third season and these juicy crimes is you're single again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really looking either. I'm like, the next person is going to be the one or nothing because I do not have time. Like, I'm co-parenting 2 young kids. I have like 3 jobs. I don't have a minute to carve out unless you're the one. So
I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but was it a long time coming? Because you guys been together for like 6 months, or was it
6 years?
Sorry,
Yeah.
6 years. Or was it a reason that was undeniable?
Well, it was very off and on for a long time.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to say too much because I have so many male enemies, I feel already.
What do you mean, male enemies that you really know, or male enemies that are typing away?
No, male enemies that like I've dated.
Oh, okay.
So I have a couple. But anyway, I mean, but people would know because it's like he was on dating apps behind my back constantly. And he probably won't be happy that I said that, but he was the one putting himself out there, verified account linked to his Instagram. So like every girl in Vegas is hitting me up like, "Ho, isn't this your man?" And
So they would be on like a Bumble or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't even Raya.
Okay, so
It was
to let
Bumble
people,
and Tinder.
because the way I understand it is, since I've been married, almost 25 years, and no, I've never been on the dating apps, but I'm fascinated by it. When my friends are on it, I'm like, let me see what's knocking on your door. Okay, so you go through it, and the way I understand it is, Raya is for not only like entertainment people, but they really verify that you are who you are. You have the money that you say you have, and it's the most difficult to be accepted on. Right?
Yeah, and it's private. Like if you get caught screenshotting, you're kicked off,
Now, couldn't you take a second phone and screen
Yeah,
grab?
people do that. And then they get kicked off the app. But,
But how would they know if
someone?
someone, they can tell too?
Well, I think if somebody's like watching your social media or something like that, I've heard of people getting kicked off for things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but with like a Tinder and a Bumble or whatever.
Anyone can see it.
Right. And so people saw his face. Was he using his real name too?
Yes, it was verified and linked to his Instagram account.
So he used his real job, his real face.
Yeah, all the things, full bio.
And so did you confront him, and what did he say?
I did. Well, guys always like to do that. It's not really me, or that's an old account I'm not on.
Okay.
But you get enough screenshots and receipts from other people that it's just like, okay.
Right. So it wasn't that. It wasn't just like, oh, I was mad at you that night and I just put it up there and then I took it down.
Yeah, and we were very off and on, so there was
Okay.
room for some of that. But then you start catching it with like verified dates and screenshots and things like that. So, it wasn't.
You know what I think? I think it's like originally, like, a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, with all this technology, it makes it so easy to cheat.
Yeah.
But now I think actually it's the opposite.
I think so too.
I think it's way harder to cheat than like 20, 30 years ago where like people had entire other families.
Yeah,
That-
people
with
would
all
know.
the Facebooking and groups and did you date this guy and
Mhm.
TikToks and everyone being on social media. And then if you meet a guy who's like, I don't have social media, then your antennas go up too because you're like, why? What are you hiding? Or like when girls
Yeah.
say I'm dating a guy and he's always just like, no, don't take my photo. And you're like, well, why?
Also, have you seen the Facebook groups? Are we dating the same
Right,
guy?
yeah,
The
I've
Vegas
heard of
one
that.
is lit.
The Vegas one is?
Yeah.
Because
And
that's where you mostly live, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people just go on there. And if they're even thinking about going out with a guy, they're like, okay, does anybody have any red flags on Evan? And every girl in town knows Evan. It's like with every guy. It's crazy.
I just remember this one guy who he was like my age, so he was dating someone younger, like 27, whatever. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, screw dating young girls. It's really hard. He's like, I had a girl that broke up with me because I didn't tag her in a photo. He's like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. So then she was like, you're not tagging me in the photo, because you don't want the world to know. And he's like, I posted the photo. I didn't tag her. Like, it's so weird.
There's a
how
whole new set
much-
of etiquette. Yeah.
Yes, that has to be described. Speaking of which, dating older people, because you, of course, were with Hef. For how many years were you guys together?
7 years.
7 years. And
yeah.
we watched the show. You were clearly the most devoted. He seemed to me, put you at the top. Like you were a more special thing, even though there was the girlfriend theme of the show. And as much as I watching it, it seemed that you were headed towards marriage or you thought it would lead to marriage. And so since then, you've dated other people, but nobody has been significantly older than you at all. Now, he was 30 years older than you, 40? How much older was Hef?
Like 50-something years older than me.
Right. So that is very much like Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. They're in the 50-year range. They're almost in the great-grandpa. Like not even just grandpa.
Yeah.
Like great-grandpa range. And, now he's a very powerful man too and all of that. But she's only like 23 or 4.
Right.
Which I saw a joke when I talked about it before where it's like she can't even rent a car, because she's 25.
God. Right.
They asked Tom Brady, they're like, this good comedian was like, would you rent a car for your former coach's girlfriend? And it took him like a second to go, oh my God, I have to do that.
That's so funny.
Like when you see that, like what do you think? Because she also has dated much older men.
Yeah, I'm kind of fascinated. Like, I'm not in a judgmental way at all,
Right.
because obviously I dated a much older man who I was in love with and fascinated by. So I understand being attracted to the super successful guy that you can look up to, who's super interesting and iconic and whatever. But nobody else I've dated since has been significantly older. So I'm kind of fascinated because there are women out there who will. And again, no judgment, like whatever, but I'm kind of fascinated. Like the woman who had a baby with Al Pacino, like she has a really interesting roster, like Mick Jagger, Clint Eastwood, Al Pacino. I'm like, wow. And she was a girl who I kind of like looked into her a little bit just because I'm curious. And, I think she was brought up like upper middle class or wealthy, went to NYU, film student. I'm sure she's talking to these guys about, career stuff. I don't know. And I don't know. It's just fascinating.
I think there's two types of women too.
Yeah.
Like, and I do think that it's like, I remember this Jill Zarin, who's a friend of mine, her boyfriend Gary said this to me. He was talking about somebody who went from one billionaire guy to another billionaire guy, but kind of in the same pool of like a Palm Beachy, golf, whatever world. And he said, and I go, oh, I would think that they would be going for the young, hot thing, whatever. He's like, and not that this woman wasn't, but she was she was not significantly younger. She was someone else's former wife and then went to another. And he's like, billionaires want another billionaire's fabulous wife.
100%.
Like they
I've
want
noticed
what
that
their
too.
friend
It's
would
weird.
rather have than just some like yacht girl that's like, they know they can get that girl. They know they can manipulate the 25-year-old when they're, 55. But certain men would rather like, no, I want, a really quality woman, but she's 48 and I'm 55 and like, and she's already been married and divorced and is well liked and has her own shit going, which I think is kind of fascinating. And then there's the guy that seeks out the much younger woman. Hef never went past a girlfriend he never started the relationship with any girl that was like, what?
Over 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like, that's what he was comfortable with, knowing that was the age he needed to, I think, control,
100%,
manipulate, impress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. That's what it was.
To be impressed. And so my other question is, so then when the relationship ends and then you're like getting together for the first time with a body that's like a good body, like tight skin, like not an older man.
Yeah.
Is that like, and also just somebody not knowing, not having all the connections too that the older guy had. Like, what was that transition like to now date guys that are just, have their shit together, but are normal guys?
I don't know if I've ever dated a normal guy, honestly. I mean, my common denominator when I look at who I've dated is I tend to really be fascinated with like really successful people who are really creative and kind of create their own worlds.
Okay.
That's kind of like what I'm drawn to, I feel. So I feel like the weirdest thing in dating for me transitioning out of the mansion is just dealing with other people's judgment, because people will be excited to get together with you knowing exactly who you are and what your history is. But then you get into a few months later in the relationship and they start developing deeper feelings and they start getting really jealous and they start overthinking my past or what my past would have been or what they imagine it is. And it just gets crazy.
And is that about the wealth and the connections that you had in your previous relationship that maybe they couldn't provide as a guy, or is it something else?
I think so. Okay. Or, just worrying about what other people might say because what they imagine about the relationship or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, has anyone ever come to you and asked like for advice? Like, hey, I was with this much older guy for a long time. I want out. How do I, now I'm going to not have all the amenities and cushions of having a guy that's like wealthy and established and knows how to do everything. Like, is there any advice you'd give to somebody that's like maybe in a relationship where they're like, it's been such a parental relationship that, is a couplehood, but like.
Yeah, you just have to save as much money as you can and start thinking about, what you want to do when you get out. Like I was always very conscientious of that from the minute I entered that relationship. I was always in school for other things or setting aside as much money as I could. We didn't get paid much for different things, but I always knew that this could come to an end at any minute. Even when I was in the mindset of I never want to leave or I feel like I can't leave, there was always a part of me that was saving money and going to school and doing things like that.
Yeah, that's very important. And like one of the things I saw recently, a clip from your and Bridget's show, is that she brought up the fact that she recently found out that Hef had life insurance policies on you, which you oftentimes see an ad like, oh, the Gerber baby life insurance policy, where people could get a life insurance policy on their child. Mm-hmm. But to do it on another person that isn't their spouse. And then I saw in the comments that this insurance person said, yes, that can happen, but that you as the adult who's not, would have to agree to it. Whether you're married or not, you'd have to agree to it. But I'm imagining when I'm watching the show how you'd go into Mary's office or whatever, and there's papers and this and that, and you're doing a show, and here's a release, and this is for the photo shoot, and this is that if you signed it, who's just, I'm sure it wasn't presented. And this is a life insurance policy. So if you die, Hef gets this, but like, I don't think that was ever presented.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past, just because sometimes when people are so influential, especially somebody who's such a character as Hef, he might be working with an insurance broker who just loves him so much that they'll just take his word for it. Like, oh, it's fine. And, I'm not saying signatures were forged, but I wouldn't be surprised either, because there's all kinds of weird things like that going on. We didn't even know about the life insurance until years after somebody called Bridget and was like, do you want to extend your policy? She's like, what are you talking about? And they said what year it was taken out and who took it out. So she called one of the secretaries at the mansion. They're like, oh, yeah, Hef had these life insurance policies taken out on you guys.
Just the three of you?
Yeah.
You don't know about the girlfriends before or after?
Not that I know of. I think it was because we were thought of as an asset from the show.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even like
it's creepy,
grossy,
right? Yeah,
grosser.
I don't like it.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, yeah. If one of you died, how much money would that be worth in lost revenue and production? And
And especially weird because we were always constantly told how replaceable we were. So it's like, okay, if we're so replaceable, why are we insured?
how would they tell you that you were replaceable?
Well, the first time I remember hearing it directly was the executive producer of the show had a little luncheon with us outside by the pool at the mansion, just me, Bridget, and Kendra. And we weren't getting paid at all for the first season of the show at that time. And Kendra got up the nerve to ask well, shouldn't we be getting paid for this? And the mood at the table changed so fast. You feel the energy drop on this guy and he gets really serious and he's like,
wait, what was his role?
He was the executive producer of the show.
Oh, okay.
And he was also really close with Hef. So they were in cahoots on everything. And you could just feel the energy drop from this guy. He got super pissed, stared her down and said, "You are replaceable. There are so many girls who would come in here and do this. You get free rent here. You get this. You get that. And we were just all kind of whoa. And eventually we did end up getting paid, but we were always told anytime we were asking for raises or anything like that, it's just, you guys don't matter. You're replaceable. This show isn't about you. It's about the mansion.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was on a show and we were told that too. And
It's
crazy,
crazy,
we
right?
were not in romantic relationships with the boss, and we were just funny comedians who were told that as well.
Yeah,
and
that sucks.
sometimes it's like a throwaway, sometimes it's whatever, and maybe they're frustrated and they're stressed out. But it's not a great way to ever treat your employee, whether you're on a TV show or not, because it just makes you feel resentful.
Exactly.
And they, especially in Hollywood, oh yeah, you're a dime a dozen. But maybe it does make someone then realize, oh, okay, I better shut up but then I also better start storing my nuts away for the winter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the fun part is we were replaced and then the show flopped.
Yes.
So there you go.
I know whenever they try to do a reboot of anything, whether it's, Three's Company was never the same once, Suzanne Summers left.
Yeah, and she got booted because she asked for more money.
Yes, she asked for more money, and then and she should, because she was the star, and it was her husband who was also in TV that acted as her manager, and then I remember from the scene from the made-for-TV movie, it was based on their books and everything, was he came out and he was she's like, how did it go? And she was hoping to go back on the show. And he's he had already introduced her to this thigh master. Then he was I think you could sell this. And then he's get ready to sell a thigh master. And that was the first QVC exercise thing that really made them millions.
That was brilliant. I mean, that was on TV all the time growing up.
And I will say about Suzanne Summers and her husband, she was so in love with him as he with her, and so much mutual respect. And many, many years ago, my mom was in real estate and I was in real estate too before I met it. And she either sold her house or she was looking for their longtime assistant. They were buying a house which I believe for the assistant to keep after. So that's the way you treat. Yeah. Someone's been there for that long, and you're I want you to, live close enough to work for whatever it is. So I'm just saying that's, you hear about people being nice like that. But that's it's so true. Whenever that happens, it just isn't the same. And that's why sometimes people, speaking of which, I'm just going to bring this up because we're talking about shows. So I don't know if you, Kelly Clarkson has a show. I don't watch that much, but I see the clips. Extremely popular. She's so likable. She sings on the show. She left for 2 weeks with no real reason of I have to just take 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
It's not like someone in the family died or whatever. But she has 2 kids that are 8 and 10. And she has to film it in New York and lives in the city with her kids. And so there's talk that she might want to end the show in a year when her contract is up. And I think it's really interesting because it is so much time to do a daily show.
Yeah.
And her kids are at an age where she feels I remember her saying something on a show I wish they would do these performances and stuff at night so that working moms could go. And then the response was yeah, but the teachers don't want to come back at night.
Yeah.
And I'm well, that's true too.
Yeah.
You can't please everybody. And I'm sure she doesn't need the money to do the show, and I don't feel she's a fame person.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, then you know what? This is kind of a good move because then they're going to want to keep her. And she'll be like, all right, let's just build a studio in Nashville or wherever. And we can have the show there. And then the argument's like, oh, but all the guest stars that come through, the interview guests, they're doing just their press. And that only happens in LA and New York. And I'm like, she doesn't need those people. First of all, people would fly to go do her show in Nashville.
More and more things are happening in Nashville. I feel like you could go to Nashville and do a whole press week these days.
Yeah. And I'm like, so that's what I think she should do. I think she should put her foot down and be like, if you want me to do the show, and then she should do a contract where she has many more weeks with a guest host. And, so where she doesn't have to be there. And yeah, she should take this time to be with the kids because it goes by fast.
It does go by fast.
My kids are grown.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy of where they are. But, I didn't have that freedom because I wasn't the star of the show. But if I did, I would have definitely made it a more conducive thing.
Yeah. She has a residency coming up in Vegas at Caesars.
I was just going to say, why doesn't she just do that?
Yeah.
What is it? Do you know what it is? Like how long it is or?
Well, when you're at Caesars, you rotate with other people.
Oh,
so it's not like she has to be there all the time. It would be like a chunk of dates, like maybe 2 weekends a month here and a weekend a month there. That's usually how they schedule it out.
So she, can sing any song and is great. And we talked about this on my last episode. And she sang that song, I like my girls a little bit older. And then it was like every girl that was either lesbian or thinking about it was like dying for her. And so she changes the words. And it's just like she did another song where I saw where she was just like ripping on her ex-husband. Like she changed the words on the ex-husband. Like, how dare you get half? And I think that's what she should do. I think she should. But sadly, for the people that work on the show, it's so great to have a hit show.
Totally.
But hopefully, that's what I think is going to happen. This episode of Juicy Scoop is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Guys, summer's around the corner, and I know we're thinking family vacations. Let's take the kids somewhere. Maybe you've got a couple weddings you want to hit. All of that involves booking the perfect place. That's why I love Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Because every time I use Booking.com to find a place to stay in the U.S., I know they'll have exactly what I'm looking for. They have a huge variety of options from hotels to vacation rentals, and I'm always able to find something that fits my specific needs, like I'm sure you will as well. I know this summer, Peter and Drake are doing a golf trip, and Brandon and Mackenzie and I want to go meet them at the tail end of it. So when we go meet them, I've got Brandon and Mackenzie. So we're going to need 2 rooms so that Mackenzie and I will share. Brandon will have his own. We want to make sure that everybody can get up when they get up, get something to eat, go for a walk in a safe, cute neighborhood. And that's why I love Booking.com. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com, Booking.yeah. You guys know I've talked about iRestore, which is absolutely amazing for the regrowth of hair. But now I want to tell you that there's even better results with iRestore Elite. You pair it with the Revive and Max Growth Kit and the Revive Biotin Vitamin Gummies. The Revive and Max Growth Kit is like a full-on hair care squad that works from root to tip. So it includes the advanced hair growth formula, thickening shampoo, thickening conditioner, and growth-activated serum. Everything you need for healthier, fuller hair. Trust me, your hair will thank you. And if you subscribe and save, you can save 25% or more, plus free shipping on the ultimate hair care upgrade. I absolutely love their thickening shampoo and conditioner. It is making my hair feel fuller every day. And it's a great feeling when you're in the shower, lathering up, knowing that your hair is going to have awesome results. Give yourself the gift of hair confidence this spring. For a limited time only, our Juicy Scoopers will get $625 off their iRestore Elite when you use the code JuicyScoop at iRestore.com. That's $625 off iRestore Elite at iRestore.com with the promo code JuicyScoop. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Hair loss is frustrating. You don't have to fight it alone thanks to iRestore. Some people get a haircut or book a spontaneous trip when life throws them a curveball. But Molly, She went a little further. After a life-changing diagnosis, she dove headfirst into a world of no-strings-attached sex, secret rendezvous, forbidden affairs, sexcapades, and unforgettable adventures. It wasn't just about pleasure. It was about feeling alive, embracing desire, and rewriting her own story. And every wild, outrageous, and heartfelt detail unfolds in Dying for Sex, Wondery's award-winning podcast that's now a TV series starring Michelle Williams and Jenny Slate. But there's even more to the story. In brand new bonus episodes, host Nikki Boyer sits down with the cast to spill all the spicy details, from behind-the-scenes moments to what it was really like bringing Molly's unforgettable journey to life. Desire, friendship, self-discovery, and the ultimate bucket list of pleasure. This is a story that had everyone talking. Listen to the original Dying for Sex plus new bonus episodes on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Binge the original series before anyone else, completely ad-free on Wondery Plus. But let's get into what your show is, which is the Playboy Murders on ID. This is your third season.
Yeah.
And so explain a little bit. They find kind of juicy murders, which, you know, sadly involve women being murdered that have some connection to the Playboy world.
Right. Whether it's a playmate or a Playboy model or somebody who worked as a bunny in one of the clubs. And there were so many clubs back in the day that we have a third season of the show now. So yeah.
And which was so interesting. So the first one I want to talk about is Kim Fattorini.
Yes.
She was so pretty. And she died when she was 30. And she was not only modeling and would do the events, but she was also helping to cast parties and stuff. And this was only in 2017.
Yeah, it just happened in 2017. And this case was brought to my attention on social media. I would have people come into my DMs like, can you please cover this case? Friends of hers who really wanted her story to be told, because in some ways it's still kind of unsolved.
Yeah.
She was found dead of an overdose. It was kind of written off as an accidental overdose. But they found alcohol, cocaine, and GHB in her system. And people don't tend to do GHB as a recreational drug. Also, she was sending texts right before she passed to someone else saying, come help me. Somebody put G in my drink. I've never done this before. And then the text messages start to get really incoherent. It just looks like a bunch of letters strung together. Yeah, so it's a really scary situation. And there wasn't enough evidence, apparently, to do a criminal case, but there's a civil trial pending right now.
And explain who the civil case is against. It's this guy that she was hanging out with.
Yeah, Sean Merriman, a former football player, and Eli Wiebe, who was a club promoter, who was the one who got the text messages. I believe that was him that got the text messages. And they're being sued for negligence in her death.
Well, so is the friend.
Yeah. Monica Mash. She's named in the suit as well.
And I think that is... So the friend, so they were like, you know, this is back in the day, which I just saw a video of two young girls being like, why is there no LA nightlife in LA?
Yeah.
There's no nightlife for the Gen Zers. And I guess it's because they just, they don't drink as much. They'd rather watch nightlife on their phone by themselves. It's just, I don't know if it'll ever really come back. But they were saying, no, the highlight years of LA, and people were listing it, it was like, you know, maybe 98 to like 2010 or something. Those were the years that all those clubs, it was fun, like always something to do every night. Those were the Paris Hilton years. Those were the years that you guys were seen at the clubs all the time. Where
Especially
you guys would go.
back before people had smartphones, because celebrities felt like they could go out and when they were inside the club, away from the paparazzi, not get tattled on. So things really changed when people got cameras on their phones.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
That is
all.
a bummer. Because even for me, like, I've like stopped doing as many stories on my evenings out and stuff. Because I'm just like, I don't know. Like,
all you need is one tile. You don't need the whole, like, and God, concert videos. Can people stop?
And fireworks.
Concerts and fireworks. Just don't. Just enjoy it.
I know. And it is better. Just, take your one photo, post it the next day.
Yeah. Show a picture of the poster.
Yeah.
I saw I do like seeing some Sabrina Carpenter footage. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
She's cute.
Yeah. But it also, like, I used to hate it because I would, like, like the next day I'd be like my voice, like, because I'd get buzzed, you know? So I'd be like, happy birthday. And I'm like, oh, God, you fucking old piece of shit. Like, I just said, like, no. And so now I'm like, no, I'm going to put more video on my Patreon where people are like, okay, I do want to see your evening, but I don't need like, people picking apart like, what you were doing or where you were. And so I do think that makes people just be like, yeah, you're right. And so with this case, so she was with her girlfriend. They were going to go out, this girl, Monica, and then they come back, and it was that they partied so late. So they came back to the apartment, Monica's place, and she didn't wake up till 3 in the afternoon. And that's when she found that she was unresponsive.
Yeah.
But there was the discrepancy when I was reading all the notes you sent me that of like, first it was that she just called and was like, we came back and, she's now not waking up on the couch. Then it was that she saw her and this guy having consensual sex.
Yeah.
Which I feel like she's just.
Yeah, how can you know when somebody's blacked out,
And like and you were probably wasted too.
Yeah.
You probably had the GHB in you too, but you lived. It could be one tiny ounce more with a combination that would cause someone to. But I do think there's something, I don't know, kind of scary about it if you were just the friend that came along. Like, I mean, we all want to have our girlfriends' backs and stuff, but I was like, to have it like haunt you all these years later and then be faced in like a civil case that you didn't do everything you were supposed to do as the friend. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really scary.
I mean, it is kind of a freak out thing. But I liked hearing about her. But we want people to watch the show. Okay, now let's talk about this other episode. Now, this girl had many different names.
Yeah.
Carissa and then Carrie.
Yeah. We can call her Carissa. That was her playmate name. She
Okay.
was a playmate in 2000, and she was involved with a guy who was trying to start a cult. He seriously wanted to create – this story's so wild. I feel
so
dumb
wild.
even repeating it. But
Yeah.
he was brought up Mormon. He did his missionary work in Brazil. He was very charismatic, was really successful at that apparently. So he came up with a scheme later in life. He was around 30 when all this went down, that he wanted to get a group of Brazilian orphans and brainwash them into becoming assassins to go take out the leaders of the Mormon church so he could take over the Mormon church. So that was his scheme. She was involved in this really toxic relationship with him. He convinced her to send her photos to Playboy because he wanted her to become a playmate. And his scheme was he wanted her to be accepted into Playboy and then use the connections that she got there to create like a high-paid escort agency. That's what he wanted to do. And she got accepted into Playboy, but broke it off with him and got away.
Once she got to LA.
Yeah. So she gets to LA. She gets a waitressing job. He stalks her down there, shows up at the job. And when her issue's about ready to come out, she tells Hef and Playboy that she's worried about this guy. So they agree that on her promotional tour, they're not going to keep her in one place for more than 2 days. So she probably got away in the nick of time because not long after that, they find these 5 bodies. 3 of them were dismembered in duffel bags in a river. And he had gone on this killing spree, trying to get money from people. They were people that he knew because he was a stockbroker. So they were former clients of his.
I mean, it's such a crazy story because it's like he had a brother.
Yeah.
He had a brother that he involved in this.
And this other woman
and
named
another
Dawn.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
And convinced them that this was like all for the good of the God or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it's like, I don't want to say anything. There's lots of lovely Mormon people, but the amount of like horrible, crazy crime that's come from, I was raised Mormon and then I went on the offshoot, whether it was Lori Vallow, who was like raised Mormon and then like went crazy in a whole different direction and thought her kids were evil spirits. So she killed him with her boyfriend. There's just been like of course there's like the Warren Jeffs of the world. And it's strange that like there's just a lot of that, unfortunately, that comes. And now people are going to say, yeah, and how many horrible Catholics? Yes, I agree. But
there's
I'm just
a fringe
saying
in every group.
There's a fringe in every group, but there's something about like, I don't know, this was just, very strange. And that, yeah, and I do believe that Mormons as business people are extremely successful, these men, because they do go out on the missions and they imagine how much rejection they get.
Right.
Knocking on doors for 2 years. So then when they get into sales, it's like
they're natural.
It's like the best sales like training on earth. And so, yeah, and then add to like mental illness and delusion that you're this cult leader.
It's really crazy. And the more I read about this guy, the crazier it gets. Like he had this fetish for eating out of a dog bowl. And when he was planning these murders, he wanted to feed the victims to a dog. So he got these 3 dogs and he was practicing by giving them just like animal meat on bones. And I guess they weren't eating it as much as he wanted them to or something. So he abandons 2 of the dogs on the side of the road, red flag, keeps one of them. And it's just weird. Like the more I read about it, it's just the layers to it are so bizarre.
I know. And I always just think that, and then also when women get involved and are also convinced to either you commit the murders like a Charles Manson person, or you're there and you're participating with the cleanup and the planning and the, and then like in the case of the woman that was with them, she was basically the eyewitness to it all. And, she got a lot of time too.
Yeah.
But,
25 years.
Yeah. But the 2 brothers, had it worse, but I don't want to give it all away. But what I found interesting about the Playmate is, so then what happened was this crime, they arrest them while she's still like in the limelight.
Yeah, she was doing a signing in Vegas.
Because she was the actual Playmate of the Year.
Oh, she was a Playmate of the Month that
which is
month.
a huge deal.
Yeah, and
especially
her issue was
back
out.
then. Like,
yeah,
oh
for
my
sure.
God, that was the Playmates of the Months would be like on KTLA, and
Totally.
like it was very mainstream. It was very much okay. This is absolutely a launching pad to be on sitcoms and
100%.
be a host on an e-show.
Yeah, we have so much cute footage of her in the show from on like Win Ben Stein's Money and like fun shows like that. And she's so adorable on it. But she was doing a signing in Vegas when the police came to question her about, what could she possibly know about this? She got taken right there from the signing. So it was really scary. But, luckily she got that job just in the nick of time, because you wonder like what else could have happened had she not had that excuse to leave.
But then she really kind of, went into a very private life after that. And I think that's probably for couple reasons.
Yeah.
One is she was freaked out, and that's might have been what she wanted to do either. But don't you think also Playboy was like, let's not have the hard copy episodes about the fact that this woman is involved with someone that's absolutely guilty of like 5 gruesome murders.
Yeah, I think that's
that's
probably
not
the
great
case.
PR.
Like they worked with her a lot to keep her busy and not keep her in one place and keep her as protected as they could. You can't babysit everyone who models for you, of course.
Yeah.
But I think they did their part with that. But also that when those stories are breaking, that might not be the person they reach out to for the promotions or who they're considering for Playmate of the Year, because then that's what the story would be about.
Right.
So it's unfortunate.
Yes, that's very juicy. Okay, now this girl.
Lisa Kale.
Yes. This is kind of interesting, more the backstory of this era of Playboy.
Yeah, it was the 80s. They were doing different features around the country. Like there would be like, this one was Girls of Texas. And this was when like Dallas was huge and like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were huge and all that stuff. So.
I saw the cover in the materials that you sent me.
Yeah, it's really cute.
And I remember it.
Yeah, that was a big issue. They say that issue like was double what their usual sales were.
Right. So how would they do the Girls of Texas? So it was like you literally would do some amateur photos and like mail it in with a stamp. Like how would they find these people?
You could do that if you wanted to get in Playboy in general. But for these types of pictorials, they would travel around the country and they would have casting calls in the different cities. So what happened was this girl's sister, Crystal, went to the audition, to submit a picture of her sister. But they also saw her and liked what they saw. So they were both in the pictorial and separate shoots. And yeah, it was a fun experience. And unfortunately, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time the month that issue was out.
And I can't remember what happened to her. It was...
Her boyfriend was throwing her a surprise birthday party, and he was there getting the party ready. He had one of his friends, who I guess allegedly was a drug dealer, take her to the party, but he wanted to make a stop along the way. And he goes to this house with her, and unbeknownst to him, there were 2 hitmen waiting for him, and they ended up killing her as well. So it was just totally the wrong place at the wrong time.
And I feel like also, like I was saying back, of course, when you're that beautiful and stuff, the fact that she could be doing better, but then she's still kind of with this guy who has like unsavory friends it reminded me of the Dorothy
Yes,
Stratton one,
yeah.
where before she got the Playboy, he was this guy that like she's working at this cute restaurant where you could wear like kind of the sexy outfits or whatever, but wasn't she the one that was working at the restaurant?
Yeah, a place called Confetti's.
And the boyfriend came around with her like sitting there the whole time.
Mhm.
And then they get their moment and they feel like, oh, they can't leave the guy that like was there when they to kind of help, like the Dorothy Stratton.
Right.
Couldn't get rid of him. And then, of course, if you don't know that story, the guy, Paul, whatever his name was, went insane when she wanted to break up with him. And she really was going to be like a big star.
Totally. Yeah, she had a whole movie coming out, everything.
Star 80 was like the name of the movie about her life.
Yeah.
And also Pamela Anderson. She was, got discovered at a game with her boyfriend because they put her face up on whatever at the sporting game. And then she got to be like a poster girl for like a beer company. And it was another thing where it was like, oh, I don't know if I can leave this guy that I live with that's just from my small hometown.
Yeah. It's like a guilt complex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and also because in all those kind of cases, it seemed like the guy was a little bit more like encouraging or okay with her doing it, or sent in the photos or took the photos, or like, and then you're like, ugh. And then you want to, and the other part is, because I remember this back from when I would go to the Playboy Mansion, I was like so not into like meeting anybody or doing anything nefarious. I just like to go eat the food, take the photos. The girls were wearing the painted outfits. I like loved it. Would see like Carmen Electra there and blah, blah, blah. So then after I got married and I got invited to like New Year's Eve, I was like, oh, instead of bringing a girlfriend for my plus one, I'm going to bring my husband. And I remember when I called and I go, oh, and my plus one is, and I'm like, he's my husband now. And the woman on the phone was just like, absolutely not. This is a singles party.
Oh my God.
And I go, oh, well, I don't have to take him. And she like literally hung up on me and I was off the list forever.
Whoa.
And he wouldn't have cared if like he would have been like, you can keep going with your friends. Like
Yeah.
I just thought it didn't occur to me like by bringing him that I would then be off the list.
That's abrupt.
I would go to like Halloween.
Yeah.
And it was like fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the best Hollywood party.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so anyway, I think that's crazy. And also like, so who was Hef's? Because I was thinking about this era of like how they would, there were a couple playmates that would like get on the Love Boat and stuff. Who was the one that he had for so long with the brown hair? Bonnie?
Oh, Barbie Benton.
Barbie Benton.
Yeah.
What was the deal with her? Because I feel like they were together a long time. I feel like she was always like on the Tonight Show as Hef's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But then they never got married.
Yeah. He had a whole other, well, at the time, his original mansion was in Chicago, and then he bought the one in LA, which Barbie actually found that house. Barbie was from California. And he would go back and forth.
And Barbie was a playmate as well.
She was in like a couple celebrity pictorials.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't like a playmate of the month, but she was on several covers. And when he would go back to Chicago, he struck up this other relationship that got pretty deep with another woman. And I think that was a big thing that they couldn't really get over.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so then she went off. So she wasn't a playmate. She was an actress in her own right, or what?
Yeah, she actually, Hef met her. She was an extra on the set of a show he was doing out in LA. And that's how they met. And she was, auditioning and doing things. And she did a few country music albums. And then she was on Hee Haw.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then whatever happened to her?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny you bring her up because Bridget and I are recording these episodes. That's like the season 3 finale of Girls Next Door because that's what we're rewatching. And she's in that episode. She was on like 5 different episodes of Girls Next Door. And she's such a character and such an interesting person. She was a lot of fun.
So there was no weirdness between you and her or anything, or like, was there anything that...
There was at first, but I don't feel like it was because of her. It's because the show wanted to like pit us against each other and always wants to like cut to my resting bitch face and be like, look how jealous she is. So that I didn't like. I didn't like any of that. But we got to know Barbie over time and she was really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this other one, this was back. This is Adrian
Pollock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back about when girls were really wearing the outfits.
Yeah.
And like working at the clubs. And it was a big deal for all these businessmen to have the keys and go to the clubs. And like, how was it? I was like thinking like, my dad was a member in Chicago. And then even after he was married, he would like bring clients there and stuff like that. And I don't know, I guess, my mom didn't care, but like, I was like, were girls like meeting the patrons and like,
they weren't
falling in love or
supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we do have another case, not this one, another case this season where a woman gets involved with a married doctor who was a customer at the club, and that didn't end well. But they weren't supposed to. It was really against the rules for the bunnies to date the key holders, and they weren't supposed to even give out their last names or anything like that.
Well, see, this is the thing. This is how I feel about like dancers or cheerleaders of professional football games and Laker games. They kind of do that same thing.
Yeah.
They don't want them to. I'm like, what the fuck is the point? What? I mean, honestly, like they don't make a lot of money, the dancers.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's to perform. But in this case, like, I would think if I was an attractive girl and I got the job and it's all these young businessmen and this is 1960, whatever, I would be like, I'm hoping to meet like an up and coming like finance executive.
Yeah.
I'm wearing this cute outfit. I'm charming. I'm serving their drinks. Like,
I guess if you did, you were supposed to quit. I don't know. But they were making really good money for women at the time. So,
oh, they were.
Yeah. So you would want to work there, even
Okay.
if you're not just going to meet people there.
But this was also during the time where they thought that there was like drug trafficking
Yes.
going on.
Yeah. The authorities were really trying to catch Hef doing something for whatever reason. They were just annoyed with him. So they caught one of his secretaries, not this woman, but one of his secretaries with cocaine, and were trying to get her to like testify against Hef. And she ended up killing herself around the same time. And then this woman was living at the mansion for a while and going on trips with everybody and flying on Hef's private jet. And she would write letters home that made some of her friends think she was like, kind of a drug mule for these guys sometime. And then she ends up mysteriously dead of an overdose out of nowhere. So the family really feels like they have a lot of unanswered questions.
And that was,
well.
and in her system, it was the Quaaludes, which was like the drug of choice for
even up to my era. Yeah.
And because they would call them like
Thigh openers.
Yeah, thigh openers or leg spreaders or whatever. And so it would just kind of make you loopy, but would it put you out like a
I've heard
I don't think
I never took one, but I've heard people say like if they took one and didn't know what it was, they just trusted it because like Hef handed it to them and they're drinking champagne, they're out of it. And next thing they know, they're waking up and somebody's on top of them. So yeah. So it can do a lot.
So it can maybe not as bad as like a GHB where you just completely don't know what happened. But yeah, because where are Quaaludes now? I feel they don't exist, do they?
I don't think they're legal to be manufactured anymore. They haven't been for a while.
Guys, have you found that you're waking up in the middle of the night just a little too often and then you grab your phone and you waste 2 hours of your life on TikTok? Or is that just me? Well, I was, and I did some changes. Now, I put the phone away, but I also switched to Boll and Branch sheets. And guys, it's life-changing. They are the softest, most luxurious. I cannot wait to get in my bed at night. It feels great against my skin. It's so soft. What I really love about the sheets is they actually get softer over time. I've had them for a couple months now, so we've washed them several times, and they actually get softer. How is that even possible? So it just every night just gets better when I'm sleeping on Boll and Branch. Upgrade your sleep during Boll and Branch's annual spring event. For a limited time, get 20% off at bollandbranch.com/juicyscoop. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/juicyscoop to take 20% off site-wide for a limited time. Exclusions apply. See site for details. The only gate I keep is the one in my yard to keep Raven safe, but now I have to share a game changer, which is Spot and Tango dog food. After trying many foods, which Raven has, and, not necessarily always loving them or feeling as excited about eating, I was like, how is she going to feel about this new dog food? Well, absolutely. She loves it. What I love about Spot and Tango, it's personalized dog food subscription that delivers high quality, ready to serve meals, snacks, and supplements, which are so important, right to your door. So no more last minute pet store runs. So, normally I would just do the mystery kibble. That's when we adopted her. That's what they told us that she should have. And I feel so much better about giving her fresh food and supplements and snacks that I know are going to keep her going longer, stronger, healthier, happier life. She deserves it. She's the best. She's gorgeous. I mean, come on. Spot and Tango is offering an exclusive deal for our Juicy Scoopers. For a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/juicyscoop and use code JuicyScoop to get 50% off your first order. That's spotandtango.com/juicyscoop. Code JuicyScoop to get 50% off your first order. spotandtango.com/juicyscoop. Code JuicyScoop. Yeah, this one was crazy, but also with the woman that then unfortunately killed herself. The letter that she left that's featured in your episode is a little...
Yeah.
It was like they found a letter and it said, I'm ending this world or whatever because you're thinking that Hugh Hefner did this, and there's absolutely no way. Like, I could find it in here. Like, it is.
Yeah, she says something like he's such a moral man, and
Hugh M. Hefner. Also, that you would put someone's middle name. Okay, this was her suicide note. Though few will ever realize it, a staunchly upright, rigorously moral man, and I know him well, and he has never been involved in criminal activity, which is being attributed to him now. This is the irony, but I have come to know that innocence is of small significance when compared to the real purpose and intent of the various government agencies engaged in pursuing him and leveling their harassment against me to the masses. So therefore, I'm going to end my life.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm not saying that he ended her life, but this note...
It seems like a lot. I mean, granted, you could look at it as if you're in the state of mind to end your own life, you could be thinking all kinds of weird things, but it seems like a plant or something.
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, he's so moral and so fabulous, and there's no way. I mean, I'm not saying he had anything to do with her death or that he was a trafficker, but just very convenient like that. The person who they were looking into for your criminal activity happened to kill themselves and then write you a glowing recommendation.
Yeah, it's very strange. It really is.
Yeah. Why? So then why did all those clubs end? Because they just were not profitable anymore?
Yeah, I think things changed. The clubs opened up in 1960. This was like the Mad Men era when people were going out to these really decadent business lunches, and they'd go out and they'd want to see like comedians and bands at the club and things like that. But then in the 70s, you get to like discos and like nightclubbs as we know them now, and people weren't really going to the type of place that a Playboy club was. So it just kind of like went out of style.
Just like how clubbing of the aughts is totally different today.
Totally.
Yeah.
Times change. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was saying, so my dad was from that like Mad Men era. And we were out with some people this weekend, and one of the people ordered gin, and I'm like, oh, gin's like making such a big comeback. And I'm like, and I remember my dad saying it was a gin martini that started. That's what they used. But then the marketing around vodka was get a vodka martini because it has no smell.
Oh.
So you could have a 3-martini lunch
and no one would know.
And go back to work.
I like that tidbit of information. That's interesting.
Yeah, and now it's like everybody just goes, I'll have a vodka martini. Or what kind of vodka do you want in your martini? Unless you say gin. And that's okay. So what was this was the bunny hunt. Okay, so this was the photographer.
Oh my God, that case too. This case could be a mini series. This took place in the Tampa Bay area in 1983. And there was a serial killer that killed at least 8 women, and they called it the Summer of Hell locally. And it started off, the Playboy connection is there was a club in the Tampa Bay area, and they were having their Bunny of the Year pageant, which is something they would do every year at the Playboy clubs. And they hired this up-and-coming female photographer to come photograph the Bunny of the Year pageant. And the next day, or I think it was, I'm not sure how much time had passed, not much time had passed since that event, she was found shot in the head and raped and murdered. And then so that kind of kicks off this Summer of Hell, as they called it, where there was a serial killer killing all these women locally. And this case is just so crazy because they put an 18-year-old man in jail based on bite mark evidence, which was something that really caught on because it was effective in the Ted Bundy trial.
And also we didn't have DNA.
Yeah, no DNA back then. But it wasn't very accurate. They ended up putting this 18-year-old man in prison for 37 years, only to find out later because they took the old evidence. This is in the year 2000. They took the old evidence from the rape kit from that woman's murder and found, based on the DNA evidence that guy they put in jail was actually innocent. And they found out who actually did it because the two men who did it were currently serving life sentences for something else. And they were in the database. So that's how they figured out who was doing it. But even crazier coincidence is after that photographer was killed, a year later, the woman who won the Bunny of the Year pageant was found stabbed in her home.
And she won and then got to go to LA.
Yeah.
And what was also unique is that she was a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the only Black woman running in the contest.
Mm-hmm.
And which is also interesting because Hugh really was someone, this is so long ago, and that wasn't even brought up or made a big deal. It was just, she was the prettiest, she had the best personality,
Mm-hmm.
everyone really liked her, the people voted for her, and she won. And he did break a lot of, at the time, like barriers, social barriers,
100%.
and just putting people of color in front of people and made a difference. It's just like putting a different diversity in media is really important because you see it, you accept it, and then it hopefully will make you a more accepting person in your own life. But and so then, but what happened with her? So that happened in LA, her crime in LA?
No, she won when you win the contest, you won a trip to the mansion. So she went to the mansion, but then came back.
Oh, okay.
And she ended up being stabbed in her own home. And that murder is still unsolved. They haven't found out who did that. They know it wasn't the same two men who were doing the other killings because they had already been put in prison before she was killed. So that one is still unsolved.
It's like reading these yesterday, I was just like, oh, I understand why that whole conversation of like, would you want to be left in the woods with a man you don't know or a bear?
I know.
It just, I feel like these bunnies were like hunted, literally like real bunnies are being, like it was scary. It was such like an safe situation. And that was, around the Bundy years and just people being like, oh, I think I'd like to go and just kill some, like, it's just, it's so interesting. But during this era of like these contests and things, it reminds me of like the Tropicana contests. Remember
the Hawaiian Tropics?
Yes, the Hawaiian Tropic contest. And would there be a crossover a lot with that, with like the girls that would do the Hawaiian Tropic and then go to Playboy? Or was it ever like, well, if you were already featured in that, we don't want you? Or was there ever any exclusivity where it was like someone would come along and they weren't as fresh of a face because...
Well, a lot of girls would become a Playmate would come from Hawaiian Tropic. I worked for Hawaiian Tropic before.
I thought you did.
A bunch of Playmates in that era worked for Hawaiian Tropic before they came to Playboy.
And now, does none of that exist anymore?
No, it's crazy.
Why doesn't it? Because it's just too sexist?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm fascinated by businesses that are really successful and what do you do with that business once it's not politically correct anymore? Like I think the same way about Hooters. I worked at Hooters in college and I loved it. I thought it was such a fun job. But what do you do when that's your company and it's no longer politically correct? Like how do you pivot and
where is Hooters right now?
Well, they said they were going bankrupt, but now they're not.
Okay.
I think there's just less restaurants than there used to be.
I remember like with flight attendants back in the like 60s too. Because I had like a second cousin, whatever, that was one, and they would weigh you.
Yeah.
And that it was another job, like another type, like either you went, only a handful of women were going off to college at that time, and oftentimes encouraged to be like a nurse or a teacher. And then if you didn't do that, a really great job was either being, and you were attractive, is like doing the Playmate, or being a secretary, which you didn't need college. You could go to like secretarial school, or the flight attendant thing where again, you might like meet a businessman but also it put women in a place to,
travel,
be seen as just the girlfriend or the promiscuous girl or whatever. And so during that time, like you had to be like, I think in age, weight. You wore the really cute, sexy outfits.
I miss old flight attendant outfits. I think those are so cute.
Like the
I mean, I've never
hot pants and
seen them in
stuff.
real life, so I shouldn't say I miss them. But like when I see pictures, they just look so cute.
You know, really, it was such an elite thing to do. So people did dress up, and they were also flying for like business meetings. So it was
Yeah.
mostly men. And I remember my dad would come home and have all the little bottles of alcohol, like they'd give it to him or whatever. And so he'd have these extra bottles of alcohol. And he was like, oh, they would do these like drinking games on the plane.
Stop.
Yes.
Oh my
and they would be
God.
like, okay, for a free drink, guys, who has the largest hole in their dress sock? And whoever had like
I
the
thought you were going to
largest
say
hole.
something
I
totally
know,
else.
I'm sorry, I just realized that. But it was like they were like playing games like that. And I'm like, this is so flirty.
Yeah.
And so then I remember my mom. Okay, so my dad had this niece, but because she was adopted, it wasn't, but still, it was his niece.
Mhm.
And so she's the flight attendant. She brings over another cute flight attendant for dinner. And my mom makes this like great dinner and everything. My mom has like all these kids. And then the niece is like, thanks so much for dinner, Pam. Uncle Bob and I and like Marissa, I want to tootle off. I want to show her that fun bar down the street.
Oh my
And
God.
my dad said my mom looked at him like, and he was like, no, you guys just go ahead without me. But it was just like, it was just this whole like, there were women that, you know, like at that era that then the housewives at home saw them as like,
Mhm.
oh, those are the flight attendants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
that's
it's like,
crazy.
it's such an interesting time.
Yeah.
So do you think like when you talk about these politically, do you think this is ever like now women have such autonomy, which if they want to use their looks in a more sexual way, they can go to like OnlyFans
Yeah.
or whatever like that. How do you feel about that movement towards where we are now, like with all of that?
God, I don't know where it's going. I don't think people will ever stop talking about it. There's always going to be people who hate it and there are people who accept it. And then when you do things like OnlyFans, there's always like kind of a downside to it and things like that. So there's going to be people who come out of it regretting it and saying don't do it. And then there's going to be people who don't and make all the money. It's just like never-ending circle.
Yeah, but it's like, I was just thinking, like, do strip clubs still exist? I mean, I'm sure they do in Vegas.
Absolutely, yeah. But people say that people don't go as much anymore. Like the younger generation really doesn't want to go to strip clubs for whatever reason. I'm curious why that is. Maybe they're just too addicted to porn on their phones.
I think you also have to sort of be introduced to it. So if none of your
Right.
friends are going and
Mhm.
they've never gone, I just don't think it like occurs to them to go.
True, yeah.
Like, you know, like I can't imagine. I don't know. I mean, I can't. Yeah, like being like, okay, let's go. Like, if it's not something you're doing or your boss isn't taking you, and also just, I think they're like wiser, this generation of men, knowing that these girls don't like you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like, I think, you know, and
They're just hopping on dating apps
yeah,
instead.
and it feels like they're watching Sopranos now, and they're like, ew, I don't want to be that like
Yeah.
guy that's like, and also they I think they do as a generation like realize like that's not cool to like see women in a more disrespectful way or
Also with the strip
or
club thing, it
whatever.
could be that nothing's private anymore. You know, like
Right.
men probably used to feel like they could go to strip clubs and no one would know.
yeah.
But everybody's so gossipy and filming everything and taking photos of everything and
Right, there'd be such a stand or like have you seen the glitter thing?
yeah, like
So it's like what women so women who are like going to meet a guy
mhm.
it's so hard to know if they're, even if they're on the apps, if they're truly single
Yeah.
or they're got girlfriend, wife, whatever. So somehow they put glitter, right,
Mhm.
on their bodies. But then are like guys being able to realize like what is,
I feel like you'd have to be a seasoned cheater to be like, I can't touch her because I'm going to go home with this glitter on me.
yeah. So let's just switch gears because we were talking about this before the show. So we've talked a lot about Meghan and
Yeah.
Harry. And, you know, she's got her thing. I've said, look, I understand the criticism, but also I'm like, girl, she's no longer, you know, making money with her husband in England. She's got kids to take care of. She's got this guy that I don't know what he's going to do out here to make money. So she's doing all the things that all of us does. She's got little jam company. She's got a show, a cooking show. It's not on YouTube.
I love
it's
that we
on
all
Netflix.
have a jam company.
Yeah, we all have like these side gigs. She's got the podcast. She's got whatever. She's got Shop With Me. These are my favorite jeans.
Yeah.
Whatever. But you were saying you saw something interesting on YouTube.
Oh my God, there's this YouTube channel that keeps coming up in my algorithm. I don't know what I did to get there. I want to say it's called like Dan Wooten or something like that. I forget the name of it. But it's this guy who all he does, maybe it's not all of his content. I haven't gone to his page and looked, but everything that comes up every day is just, he has like a whole news setup and it's just criticizing Meghan. And he'll have like these, royal insiders come up and the way they go in and just criticize like the dumbest stuff. I watch it, I think, because it makes me feel better about myself because we all have these haters online. And I'm like, well, if people are going so hard over this stupid shit, then I don't feel so bad. Because I've never seen a woman get on TV and do the most bland things you can do. And people will find like evil intent in like everything she says. It's wild.
I mean, I just think in exploring it, it is fascinating. It is interesting. And obviously, people realize, oh, well, those videos do better than this because it's a more universal subject.
Totally.
Everyone who knows Meghan Markle is, and but now the latest is that he had this charity, Prince Harry, that he founded in 2006 in honor of his mother. And it was, for HIV/AIDS unit in London, helped kids and everything. It's called Centabale. And now, according to these articles, it's in jeopardy or it's on hold or they want to get rid of him because one of the chair people was so annoyed, like with Meghan trying to do this like trophy moment. And then after that moment, allegedly, he wrote her a email that now she says was on the verge of bullying.
Whoa.
Like he wrote and was like, kind of like, how dare you treat Meghan like that? Like she was, whatever, trying to do something nice. And so that's where it is. So it's like another story that the public can get on and be like, this woman is ruining his life. Yeah. And I'm like, all the things, take the royal stuff out of it could happen to anybody.
Low level drama. Yeah.
Anyone could like, a woman like, have you move closer to their family away from yours because she's having kids and she wants her mom nearby. Like, granted, it's England to California, but like, but then people go into all the other things. I get it. But I'm just saying in defense of her, because I've been oftentimes, like talking, making fun of the same. But I've also been in defense of her a lot. And I think that's like another thing. Now, this is another thing. Like, we don't know that after that, she was like, wow, that was like really weird and disturbing. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want that to happen again because you're going to be with me at the next thing. So let me write this email. Yeah. And then it becomes this other thing. And
totally.
and this was like his one thing that he was doing.
Right.
So now,
no.
I guess he can put the little cloth on the jams and write and make the string. I don't know. And then the other article that came out was from Page 6, Prince Harry's allegedly not overly happy with his wife, Meghan, using their kids to promote her brand. Well, I mean, those are her kids. And it feels like I'm just seeing like more the back of the kids.
Yeah. I think somebody made that one up.
What do you think is going to happen with the two of them?
I don't know. I mean, if I could imagine them staying together because they feel like they have to if they were having problems. Because wouldn't you feel dumb? After all that, getting a divorce?
Well, it would be, you wonder when you're at that level. I always think when people go about even couples that seem happy, like even like Jada and Will before we knew about the entanglement and the slap and everything, when they would like wear matching outfits and gush about each other on Oprah. I mean, I remember like working with the Wayans brothers and being like, someone had broken up, like Tom and Nicole Kidman. And there was another breakup. And I was like, if Jada and Will break up, and they were like, oh my God, people will lose their mind at that time.
Yeah.
Once they did, and it was like, okay, we've seen some weird interviews and we've seen some, but when they were like wearing the matching outfits and gushing about each other and this is my bonus son, cut to 10 years later, she's screwing the bonus son's friend.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff. I think it's a lot. Like, say with like a Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, like,
Mhm.
relationship goals. When like your persona is so like, we're this funny couple, we
Yeah.
tweet each other funny things, it's all about our cute family. And it's like, doesn't mean you're going to necessarily break up and get divorced, but you might have some like rough years.
Mhm. And feel extra like you have to hide it because
or
there's so much invested.
Yeah. Oh, the extra of like, we got to stay in it when we really wouldn't want, like,
Mhm.
it is a lot. And I do think if they were to break up, like so many people would like fucking be dancing a jig and being like, I told, and nobody, why would you want that? Like, they have two little
Totally,
kids,
yeah.
they're in their 40s. I hope they do stay together and make it work and they have fun. And, he's just not a prince anymore. He's just not going to the English factories and like shaking hands or cutting ribbons. Like, but it is like a bummer that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing with his brother. But at the same time, he was the spare.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Well, tell everybody where they can watch it and also listen to your podcast.
Playboy Murders Season 3 comes out Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, and it'll be on Investigation Discovery, and then later you can stream it on Max, and Girls Next Level is anywhere you find your podcasts.
And for those of you who haven't watched it, there's already 2 seasons.
Yes, so there's a lot to binge.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into. And so it was so great to see you. Look
Thanks for
absolutely
having
gorgeous.
me. So do you.
Everything, how's the Vegas life?
I love it. And the weather's perfect there right now. So it's so great.
And what's like the new hot Vegas thing to do?
I don't know what the new hot thing to do is. I just like to go around and try different things. I like quirky places.
Yeah, and your Instagram's really fun.
Thanks.
To follow. You just went to a restaurant recently.
With the singing frog. Is that the one you're thinking of?
I don't know, but I like that I like hearing like, this is like the place to go and this was the meal. And no, it was a restaurant with an oyster bar and then.
Oh, that was at Palace Station, which is this kind of random, like off the strip
That's what
casino.
I was kind of surprised about because I was like, isn't that like the old part?
Yeah,
of
it is.
Vegas?
And it's right by where I live. So it's where I go to watch movies all the time. That's the movie theater I go to. And we went to go eat at the steakhouse there. That was so good. And I show everything I eat, blah, blah, blah. And they have this like really famous oyster bar that I haven't tried yet. And like the line for it always goes around the whole casino. So I'll have to go back there and make a video about that too. But I was there with a couple friends, that 2 guys who are married to each other.
Yeah.
And in one of my food shots, somebody sees a ring. And in the comments, people are like, why are you out with a married man? So that's like my new shtick because I always have to borrow one of my married man friends to like take me out.
That's so true. You could. Everyone, if you have a gay best friend who's a man and he's married, you could really start some major rumors.
Yeah, it's my new thing.
Those are the only married men you'll have dinner with.
Totally.
I love it. Thank you so much. This is great. Thank you,
Thank
Holly.
you. That was super fun.
Holly. Your content's so great and juicy. Love it. Thanks.